Welcome to the Illusion HorrorCon, third annual 2024. And this is the keynote, our very first panel. And thank you guys, everybody, for watching live, for signing up for games, for GMing games, and joining us for this weekend. Before we get to our panel on all things cult, so we're going to be talking about the upcoming Cult Divinity Lost Kickstarter that should be coming in maybe by the end of this year. We're going to start with a couple updates on um, on this Illusion HorrorCon. So, David, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, hi. I'm David, and I am one of the other co-hosts of this beautiful masquerade of cult and other horror games convention. And yeah, we are very excited. So this year we have, I think, in total 9 panels lined up, excluding the keynote as well, or nine panels in total. From which we have decided that our guests will partially moderate these and give a bit more brighter insight about the experience. And we have fantastic lineups, starting from body horror, non-violence in games, the role of isolation, dreams, nightmares, horror and sci-fi, podcasting, and many more topics that we're going to talk about over the weekend. And with, I think in total we have 58 games offered by 58 GMs, obviously, or a bit less, but in total about 100 players in total, with a fantastic weekend of gaming. So with that said, the other thing that we kind of have is still a charity raffle. So if you are interested in one of our fantastic sponsors, from which some of here are on the table, thank you, Petter and Helmgast, for offering a fantastic pack. If you haven't looked at it, a black bound edition collection of the cult rule books. Go check it out. The raffle for
Mhm.
charity stuff will still be open for another week until the 15th. We just want to give more people the chance to kind of look into this and not realize that after the con, people
Not
have forgot to
not
do it.
stress about it.
Exactly. And yeah, that's I think the biggest updates. And back to Crystal.
Yeah. Yes. Let's get right into it then. So we're gonna go around and I'll have all of the guests introduce themselves and what they do and if they want to plug anything. So let's start with Petter.
All right. Well, I'm Petter. I'm the creative director of Cult. I guess we should mention there is a Kickstarter probably at the end of January. That's the everything. That's the only thing I want to plug. So I will just hand it over to Gabe, our herald.
Hello, I'm Gabe. I write for Kult. I'm the Herald, and keep your eyes peeled for our Kickstarter. So, I don't know, Bryk?
All right.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Bryk. I am the English language editor for Cult Divinity Lost. I am also a writer of several scenarios, including the infamous and the Rocket's Red Glare, which is unfortunately a little more prescient than I'd like. I have written for other games, including Changeling Lost Second Edition, Deviant the Renegades, Vampire the Masquerade Fifth Edition, After the War, Exalted Essence, etc. And you can find me on most places on the internet as at Rufflejacks.
Great, and that leaves me. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Torsten Gatu, and I'm a devoted fan of Cult since its first edition. And I've been writing for Cult Divinity Lost for maybe since the last 5 years. I've been nagging Petter to write and write again. And so not much has been published yet, but it's going to be a lot in this Kickstarter. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Great. Thank you
Cool.
guys. So yeah, we'll get right into it. How about we start with the Borderlands books? So who wants to start
Well,
with
I mean, I guess we could. Oh, I mean, my God, me and Gabe, I guess, are the ones that are sort of heading the Borderlands books, and I was thinking, since Gabe is, it seems that I'm the more nervous one. I will actually hand it over to Gabe to describe what the Borderland book is.
Thank you so much, Peter. Well, the Borderlands book, I don't know where to begin. It's just a massive project at this point. But it's a book that we explore the liminal spaces between worlds, focusing on the parts of the prison where these worlds come into ours. So, I don't know, there's a lot.
Yeah, I can
And
say that
everything in between that.
yeah, I think this is an interesting. I like to talk about processes behind projects because I think that's very interesting. Because I think the process sort of defines what the project will be, and many times for many cult projects, it is more of a process to sort of discover what the book will be. The Borderlands book was planned as something fairly simple in the beginning. It was like, let's just make locations that you can find in Elysium or prison. You can go to the outskirts where sort of the borderlands towards Metropolis or towards Inferno is thin, and you will find the old church and this sort of strange phenomena there. But then there was a lot of questions about like the illusion. How does the illusion work? What are the mechanics of the illusion? So like, yes, we should add that as well. And then there was like, yes, perhaps we should add more about the lictors that are sort of the jailers, the control. So now it's like this massive tomb of information and archetypes and characters and stuff that is really, yeah, it's a monster of a book.
So it's basically a source book at this point for any sort of
Yeah, source
Borderlands.
book and toolbox, I would say. We have a lot of the tools to build a lictor, the Children of the Night, and locations in the Borderlands, handling the illusion, lots of moves.
Strange relics and artifacts you may find. It has become like, I mean, Old Cult had the first edition had a book called Legions of Darkness. And we didn't really plan to make a Legions of Darkness for Divinity Lost. But I guess this is sort of that. If you look at what Legions of Darkness, because they expanded on the lictors and they had a lot of locations and cults. So it sort of became that. And we have had a lot of writers contributing to it, because I think it's very interesting. We get a lot of different voices and different ideas. So we had many different thoughts and ideas have come into this book to create like the locations and also the characters that you can meet in these places. Because in the world of cult, I feel that we often mention the borderlands in the core rules, but they are sort of the place where you are in our world and you are not fully in one of the other worlds, but it's clearly not home anymore. I see that
Jacqueline.
Bryk raises her hand.
So I'm trying to be polite. So something, I mean, I wrote a couple of characters for the Borderlands and I really like them, but something I was thinking about when writing is how you have sort of infill or urban sprawl, where you're not quite in the city, but you're not in the suburbs either, or you're not in the country. And for me, the Borderlands has always sort of been like the urban sprawl of the various realms and how they intersect with the illusion and how they take on the character of the illusion that they're nearest to, but they're also their own thing. And I am very interested to see what this book does with that and those themes, because once again, you mentioned that we don't really talk about the Borderlands because a lot of times when we're addressing cult, everything is either one thing or another, or it's one thing posing as another thing, but we don't really talk about that sort of bleed and that mixing a lot of times when we play cult. And I think this book is going to be really awesome for sort of seeing what new things happen when you take something that you recognize, but you put it through a slightly different filter or you put a different effect on it.
Yeah, no, and we sort of have divided the Borderlands into sort of the Borderlands of the Dream and the Borderlands of Metropolis. as their own chapters. Of course, they also blend together, but we also give the sort of game master tools. How do you describe the borderlands of the dreams? What kind of effects do you see there? So in the borderlands, when you get close to the dream world, dreams may start manifesting in the borderlands, or things from inside you might take shape and form. To get this sort of a different flavor for the different borderlands. It's different if you go down towards the underworld or towards Metropolis or towards Gaia than if you go towards dreams or madness or passion, of course. So I just wanted to know from us, Gabe, what the favorite Borderlands is of his.
Oh,
Good
at this
question.
point, it would be Limbo, because it's the first chapter that we have finished, and the one that I keep coming back to for some reason, because we keep adding things. And it was the first chapter that we realized that there should be powers in the Borderlands. So we would have the Dream Princess, like, affecting the real world and all that. And then from that point on, all of the other chapters begin to grow.
Yeah, it's
And
terrible.
It's a monster in and of itself.
yeah,
Yeah, no, but
much
I mean,
like the Vortex.
yes, but I mean that's why it's the organic thing. You work with the chapter and then you look at it and say like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not great. And then you sort of work it, and me and Gabe tends to send them back and forth, and we tweak them. And then we had other writers that add their sections, and we're like, we should do this, and then like, oh no, we need to do it on all the other chapters as well, and we're like, oh, damn.
And then
Yeah.
I just sit there going,
Yes.
Torsten, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I'm really excited for the book because it seems like it's in the Borderlands that really the first meeting with the supernatural takes place often. Like when you're starting a campaign or a scenario, the horror kind of creeps in, and it's often through the meetings in the Borderlands that tends to happen. So I'm really excited to kind of have a framework to use when introducing that to the players. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and when you think about it, I think the Borderlands is quite intuitive for all of the GMs, because it's where the game takes place most of the time. But we have never talked about it yet. For some reason, everyone just gets it.
Exactly.
Which feels
Yeah, it's
cultish.
that's exactly my point. It's like that's where everyone is playing Cult. It's actually more, uncommon that you would go directly to Metropolis or Inferno or to a Dream Prince or whatever. So
Yeah, I think most people don't even play with the other worlds and incorporate their
and they're wrong.
wonder. Yeah, I mean they should play with them, but I think most people just keep to the Borderlands. If you look at it, a lot of people like to play with sleepers as well, so it's natural for them to play with the Borderlands.
At least at first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to play with other worlds. And when we talk about the Metropolis book, you will know why, because me and Torsten have sort of suffered severe anxiety for several months. No, but so I mean, I think that what's lovely with the Borderlands is that you get this feeling of isolation and weirdness, but it's still relatable. It's still our world, and you can have this sense of that something is just behind the veil, something is seeping through, and I think it's a great place to sort of have part of your cult stories.
Right.
Fantastic. You touched already on it. I think the next book that we saw in advertisements was the Metropolis book, and the exploration of that dreaded city, so to speak. Who wants to start and give us some insight about this?
Is this also a source book?
Is this
Did
a
it?
source book or is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Did you
is a
create
source
another
book.
monster?
I will let Torsten start because he's
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, Borderlands is kind of the perfect segue into talking about Metropolis because it's like what Petter said. It's really, most people, and what Gabe said, most people actually play in the Borderlands, and going to Metropolis is difficult, and it's difficult to give a good explanation or a good scenery about what it is to be playing in Metropolis. What do you do in a city that's dark and vast and unending? It's difficult. So, but yes, it's a source book, and I think we have everything we need for the source book in terms of what we want Metropolis to be. And maybe we should add also that this takes a step away from the the Metropolis source book that was released prior to this one, back in the day, in the 90s, where Metropolis was maybe described in a more
Violent and aggressive and full of action.
I love
exactly.
that source book, okay? And we're bringing back a major character from that source book in our Metropolis source book because he's very, don't roll your eyes at me, Petter. He's very important, but there is an Easter egg from the old Metropolis. There's at least one Easter egg from the old Metropolis source book and the new Metropolis source book.
We
But
we know that you love him.
what?
We know that you love him.
I love him so much. But no, we don't have any lictors with gun chainsaws anymore.
No,
no,
It's
but
too
I mean,
bad.
I think it was more of a. I think there is also because there was I would say it's a shift in the first edition of Cult when they describe Metropolis in the core rules, and then in the Metropolis book, and it for me I've always been more attached to the Metropolis as this dead, vast city, the abandoned primordial home. But what has been hard in stories is tough to sort of create stories is that often there are these events where people sort of end up in Metropolis in different ways. You find yourself in this big, vast, dark city. Okay, so what do you do then? What can you find? That's one part. But what if you want to have a story where you actually want to push the players to go into the Metropolis? They want to go there to do something. But Metropolis is also a book, and I think that it's very hard to create a book that expands on the feeling of Metropolis, the mythology of Metropolis, and doesn't make it boring and removes the magic, because we want it to be vast and mysterious, but it's at the same time it makes it almost completely unusable, because it's just like mysterious things, mysterious locations, things happen and you don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it can create a very evocative feeling, but it's very hard to actually use it for a longer time. It's often, so I think most scenarios are like people sort of step into Metropolis and experience that then they are immediately pulled back. So we try to make something that is more usable, in the sense that you should be able to actually, as a game master and as a player, have an agenda to go into Metropolis. And as a game master, you should have tools to sort of create this atmosphere, but still have the freedom to sort of do anything with it, and hopefully not make it feel like a boring geography book where you're like, oh, this is blah, blah, blah. And one of the things we have done to do that is that we have established sort of 4 factions that will be kind of central in the book. And I will throw it to Torsten again, because he is actually the creator of those, or like the concept of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So we have a couple of different we have 4 different factions that are going to be featured in the book, at least 4. So one is the Red Pendulum Assembly, which is what we try to do with the factions is that they have a presence in Elysium and a presence in Metropolis. And they can be similar, but also kind of different, because obviously what we see in Elysium, in the illusion, is something else, and they might have different agendas in Elysium compared to Metropolis. So in Elysium, the Red Pendulum Assembly is the world of big tech. Like you can think about it as like, you know, what is someone like Elon Musk really up to, right?
Snubbing me
So
at parties in 2013.
okay.
That doesn't happen in Scandinavia.
Nope. We have to use our imagination instead.
Yeah.
So in Metropolis, the Red Pendulum Assembly is rather these sentient machines that tries to make sense of what it means to have a consciousness. So they want to kind of create their own mystical faith and use human divinity to try and get them there. So that's kind of the connection that becomes, you know, attached between Metropolis and Elysium, where this, you know, these sentient machines influence the big tech world in Elysium. So that's one of the factions. Another faction is the Nephilim, and the Nephilim in Elysium, they're very much about the reverence of childbirth and experimentation with holy blood. So what they're trying to do is create human angel hybrids that shall be the holy children that, you know, ushers in a new era, so to speak. But in Metropolis, they're led by a melancholic angel and father figure that now, with the demiurge dead or gone, sees as his mission to build an army to fight the enemies of God. So that's two of the factions. Do you want to talk about the other two, Petter?
Well, I think we should also let some of them other be discovered, but we try to create different factions. But there is one that is more, you know, Astaroth based, and we have one that is more where we have sort of enlightened humans who have started a secret society that uses Metropolis as sort of their base. But I think the idea with the factions is that when you come to Metropolis and the mythology of Kult, the sort of the main actors in Metropolis, like the Archons, they are so huge and so powerful and big. They are like Saurons in their tower in a way. So it's, you can't really, I mean, you can see that, oh, they are immense, but that's what you can sort of do in a normal campaign. But the idea with the factions is that they are smaller. You can have stories that where you are either part of them or you are sort of against them. It's okay if some of them, like, is, you know, if they fall, they have sort of, they clash also with each other and with other parts of the illusion. But that's the core concept, that you want to create these things that are starting to influence Elysium from Metropolis, that you as a game master very easily can hook in stories to and characters to, and where you also can have an agenda where you clearly want to go into Metropolis. And also, if you end up in Metropolis, it can be a good way, because these factions are sort of the few of those that actually often have ways back to Elysium that you can sort of discover or make.
Yeah, so we're trying to make a web of connections between factions and locations in Metropolis, and you know, artifacts and plot points, and so Metropolis feels like you know, something that you will be able to use rather than this just vast dark city.
Great.
Torsten once gave me crap for my Metropolis writing. That's how we
sorry.
became friends.
We're on good terms now, though.
We are.
Yeah.
Also, I, you know, edited his entire solo play novel, which is awesome, and is another thing that is coming up.
Thank you.
So, yeah, let's get into the scenario collection then.
Well, since Jax did such a good segue, I think we could take a talk about Deep Waters. That would be stupid.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Jax, for that segue. So yeah, Deep Waters is a classic cult story about repressed memories and strange disappearances that feature glimpses of Metropolis, a journey through Inferno, ritual magic, nightmarish confrontation with the past, and encounters with hellish creatures and more. So, standard cult, basically. And it came about because Petter wanted to have an introduction to cult. So both from a gameplay perspective, but also showing a story about what is cult about, really. So that and also he thought that what cult maybe needed also was a new format, or another format, because there so much content already being done in terms of scenarios and source books and stuff. So it took the form of a create your own adventure book instead. So yeah, and both Jax and Gabe has been really, really helpful in editing and coming with suggestions. So I'm really thankful for your contribution, both of you.
It's an awesome story that touches on very delicate themes at times, but the descriptions are so fun and very reminiscent of old Cult, with the art and the writing and all that. And I played through the Deep Waters book at least 3 times, trying to catch loopholes and strangeness in the text. And all 3 times were very fun.
It also manages to do the age-old conflict of what if a Nephirite and a Lictor are fighting each other, but makes it interesting and fresh, which is difficult to do, but manages to work out, and that was very exciting. Also, there's a tree. There's a big tree. It's a very scary tree. I like the big scary tree. Big fan of the big scary tree.
Mhm.
How
And the
long?
big scary tree is actually featured in the Metropolis book as well. So that's going to
Excellent.
Oh,
make
okay.
a return
Right.
there.
Right.
Gabe, you said you played 3 times through it. Just roughly, how long can one play a scenario or one time through? Is it more than a day, or is it rather a short setting?
I'm a very slow reader. so so I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I really don't know.
Okay.
I took it
I guess we'll
very
be
slowly.
excited.
But there's
I
a lot
think
of
it's
options. I think towards the end, or was it the middle? I don't know.
Well,
But anyways, a lot of options, a lot of cool scenes, and if you take your time, it'll be very fun.
I think you could probably play it in a day. It's probably a couple of hours of reading, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but it's
probably took more because I was after typos and strangeness in the results, and I did all of the results, so you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
that
but
was
I
really,
I
really
think
helpful.
I think it's nice to sort of try new things, what we can do with Cult, and it's also really good that Jax could just jump in and edit it very quickly. I know that Torsten said when she was sort of editing it live, and he's like, "My God, she's so fast!" I'm like, "Yes, I know." It's
It
like
was like lightning. I was looking in the document while she was editing, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
That's my reaction every time as well.
yeah.
I can read 120 words a minute and type 80 words a minute, so I'm quite good at it. Thank you, though.
Yeah. That's why I've always said that celerity is an OP discipline if we go to another game system.
No, I'm tired of vampire. I don't want to talk about vampire.
Okay, I'm backing off.
Speaking of doing new things with Cult, well, this isn't really an announcement. This is more of a suggestion, but I'm just going to pitch it live to
Oh
Gabe and
no.
Cutter.
Uh-oh.
So the Delta Green community does Delta Green shotgun scenarios every year where you pitch a scenario of 1,500 words or less. And I think doing something like that for Cult, maybe making it a little more official would be fun.
What does it mean? You pitch it and then you do
No,
it?
you write a scenario in 1,500 words or less,
Oh yeah. No.
not
Mm.
counting stat blocks. Stat blocks go at the end. But
Mhm.
like, having a little contest where we do very short Cult scenarios and seeing what we get out of it. I think that would be fun.
I agree.
I like that idea.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah. Stressful,
Interesting.
but I mean, I think that's what's fun with different writers is that I really love different voices and different perspective on Cult. And of course, then as Jacqueline knows, as an editor, we have to sort of sometimes, funnel people in and say like, this is not Cult, but it still gets this, different flavors and exploring the mythology and the setting, which I think is super cool. Getting all
And
these
how
new
many
perspectives.
writers do we have on the Metropolis book right now? We have a bunch. We
Oh
have
my
something like
God, I have to
20, right?
open. Have to open a separate document for that. It's like 20, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
but yeah.
I was lucky enough to be one of the writers on the Metropolis book, and Metropolis is actually my favorite setting in
Mhm.
Cult. As Gabe knows, I wrote a little poem about it 7 years ago when I was very depressed because I was having big Metropolis feelings. But I love Metropolis as both the dark city and also the violent city. And one of my write-ups includes a little French cafe with two people who run it who are paid in body heat and sweat. And if you just kind of let them eat your body heat and your sweat, they'll give you gossip and food you're not sure where it came from, but it's good. So it's
Always dark and perverted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what we love because it's weird, right? Because sometimes when people write Cult, they're very much like, blood, death, guts, rape, murder, torture. Like,
Mhm.
have you considered maybe it's just weird if someone is licking your face before they answer your question?
Mhm.
I mean,
Maybe that's scary enough, because that's pretty fucking scary.
It's
but
Yeah.
I
very
think
common.
I think it's an American thing though, because in Scandinavia that happens all the time. As
Scandinavia.
In
yes,
Scandinavia.
Scandinavia, as Torsten knows.
I
It's
thought,
what we
well,
do. It's what
except
we
for the
do.
Finns, because the Finns don't want to do that. The Finns
No,
to get within
no,
15 feet of you.
no. They stay on the other side of the water.
It is very interesting. I mean, I like to run Cult as well, and whenever I run a game, there's always jokes like, "Oh, the GM's trying to kill us. The GM's trying to kill us," and I have to correct them, like, "No, I'm not trying to kill you. That's not interesting. I'm trying to create a world where it is really scary and fucked up, and maybe you wish death after it, but." Yeah, I think it's less interesting to just try to kill you as a GM.
Also,
Yeah, that's actually
if
sorry,
you're
go
trying
ahead.
to kill someone in Cult, I mean, death is only the beginning. So,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very
Who says
true.
you're safe
Yeah,
when you get killed?
we had this problem in the Metropolis book as well. But the easiest way to write encounters is writing horrible, dangerous encounters,
yeah, for you,
which
maybe.
is yeah, exactly. But then you kind of need the face licking thing to kind of make up for that and
Mhm.
and to make it interesting because I mean, Cult is not it's not a game where it's action all the time. It's the uncanny and it's the horror and it's the unsettling nature of it all. So yeah, I think we need more face licking.
Heard it here first, folks.
Should we
or face
speak
licking.
about the scenario book before this gets even more tense?
So how many of these scenarios have face licking, and which one are they specifically?
Good question.
Go.
Well, I mean, we will actually release two. I wouldn't say. I mean, we in Screams and Whispers and also online we released a horror starter, as we called it. I tried to call it a scenario starter, but I started to call it horror starter, and now I can't stop. So now it's called horror starters, even if it's bad term. Called The Driver, who Robin Liljenberg who sort of wrote. It's very short. It's like a one shot. You just improvise and you build stories from that. But
That's
it's a
the one
real.
I'm thinking of, or is that a different one?
No, it's not the one with the jar. It's not
Ah,
the one with the jar. No, that's another scenario that also takes place in a car. So, but it's not that one. No, the driver starts with you are asking the players some questions. You're sort of going down a highway in the Nevada desert, and your car is breaking down, and it's like, who do you have in the back seat, and who are you? What are you running from? You know, so you get them, and it's really interesting to explore the cult mythology with those kind of stories. So there will be sort of two scenario books, one with more classic scenarios and one that's called Broken Reflections, that is like a collection of horror starters. And here again, we also have a lot of writers, and they are everything from like 4 pages to 30 pages or something like that. So they're very different in length and themes. So it's everything from, you know, purgatites coming back from hell and finding their old memories and to families moving into a house and finding that something is weird with their neighbor on the apartment above. Very specific in both types of horror and what type of part of the mythology we dive into.
Quick plug, Slaves of Hell is one of them, and David and I and Ryan actually did an actual play. So you can find that on our YouTube.
So yeah, so I think that will be cool. So we have a lot of sort of returning writers that come back for that, and
A lot of new writers.
And a lot of new writers. Yeah,
a lot of new people.
Yeah, but I think it's a really good format to start with, because you really need to sort of, and I like that it's so expandable. You can make, this is a story that we're going to play for like 2 or 3 hours, or it's like several days. It can be anything. So I think it's an interesting format. So that will be more experimental, I would say. But we have some really cool stories there.
Yeah, but people really like The Driver, and I think this collection will appeal to a lot of people. There's a lot of different themes and setup, and there's something for pretty much anyone.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah. And then we have the other sort of scenario collection that is more traditional. It's called The Scarlet Bride and Other Tales, which sort of the Scarlet Bride is sort of the main, I would say, campaign. It's not as massive as the Black Madonna. It's sort of a bit smaller than Taroticum. That has to do with the player characters entering a dream world, wandering into a dream world and discovering themselves. And it starts with a wedding in a villa in Hollywood, where sort of the famous Hollywood personality is getting wedded to the Scarlet Bride, who is a dream creature. But there is a plot behind this, and the whole game is the whole scenario is made so that it's very sort of, you can play it again and again, and you use a deck of cards at the different suites to sort of randomize, okay, what are your characters, what paths can you take in the dream world, what is sort of your desire that pulls you into the dream. So it's both this sort of overarching plot, but also sort of exploring your character, and as you travel through the dream worlds, you will unfold new parts of your characters as well. So that's sort of the core. But then we have Seth Skorkovsky has made a nice review of Cult. Has written a scenario called All Inclusive, where you go to this tropical island, and very weird things are happening at this sort of strange resort with things in the wall. We have a really cool scenario that's completely set in a diner in some sort of twilight land that you can't really, escape from. And we have some Mexican writers that have written a scenario that's set in Mexico, where you sort of get pulled into Gaia, and quite
Is
a
that
big scenario.
Alistair's scenario?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Call of the Wild that they finished, and a big sort of ending with Heart of an Angel that takes place in a colonial mansion in a Christian cult deep in the bayou that Gabriel and Gabriel has worked on. So it will be, again, exploring different concept, exploring different part of the mythology, but I think everything will be really, really nice. Yeah. And I think I think that's fun with Cult, is that it's always like trying new things. Like when someone is writing a scenario, it's like, oh, don't write something that we already have, try something else. And what can we use of the mythology? What can we do this time?
I'm just very excited to sink my little claws into these scenarios, because some of them I didn't even know about until just now, and they're gonna be real good and very exciting. And I like that we have Nighthawks, like that diner painting, as a scenario. That's a really cool choice.
Yeah, it's very Lynchian and very, I would say, borderlandish, nightmarish, dreamish when you are in this place, and you sort of try to puzzle together what has happened and why you are there, and personnel is behaving strangely. It will be, I think it will be a very nice one-shot scenario to play with different players.
Okay. You just mentioned scenarios that you play with cards. You just recently released the community content for the Player Moves 2.0, which are very good, by the way. Are there any changes expected for like the core rules, or is there some update coming on that one? Anything planned in that front? Because I feel the player moves already hint at a bit of change coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, our monthly drops, it's mostly me or Gabe that are like, oh, we should release something, or someone has done something, and we're like, yeah, this is so good, we need to release it as a monthly drop. And it's not planned to do any big changes right now with Cult. I think it works as it is, but as a game master, when you're using the moves and you're testing them, you're like, you're always tweaking things. I mean, I have tweaked the moves since that release as well. So, and your injury looks different now. So it's just like part of that. But I think it can be interesting for other game masters or players to sort of see like how, if you change the moves, how sort of the experience will change, how scenes will play out differently, and try to sort of find the most interesting way to play Cult. So in a way, I think it's great if game masters like, oh, we are handling See Through the Illusion this way. I know, for example, Torsten did a very special thing with his See Through the Illusion when they played Cult the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I printed the cheat sheet with the moves, and I blocked out See Through the Illusion. I just left the title, and the players were so scared about, what does this even mean? So yeah, that was a lot of fun, because I feel like no one is really using that move as it's described in the source book anyways. So I think that's really the one of the moves that needs an update the most, probably.
I mean, people use it, and I think it works, but it's if you read the description how to use it and when to use it, people don't use it like that. So it's more of like, and I'm just drawing with a big brush stroke from listening to pods and other players. So it's more of a adapting the descriptive text onto how player use it to create atmosphere and stories, I would say.
So
Fantastic.
no future changes planned. Just us having fun.
Yeah, it's mostly us having fun. But I mean, it's, things take time for us, and
Yeah,
it,
a lot of time.
a lot of time. Again, it's the sort of exploratory way we are working. Me and Torsten has also worked a lot on magic for Cult, and try different things, like how should it work. I mean, we have done that from before Metropolis. I mean, after Deep Water sometime. So that's we've been doing for several years, and it's been like, let's try this. Yeah, and how do we get the feeling of magic correct for Cult? Um, and I think that we want magic in Cult, and that the players should be able to use magic, but it's about finding the right way and the right feeling, and how do you play a campaign where people are magicians, and of different sorts, and how do you make sure that like one death magician is not too similar to another death magician? How can you create diversity and stuff like that there?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult when you look at, real examples of ritual magic. It's often a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be a magician. And it's kind of it's not necessarily exciting to play out that whole process. So it's yeah, it's a challenge to kind of put that into a gameplay perspective and try to make it useful in that context.
No, so that's why it takes time to do everything, and then of course then everything is handed to Jax as a final step, and then things change even more.
Except for the monthly things. I don't get to edit the monthly things, and I'm very sad about it.
Yeah, but I mean, those are more like, let's just get them out there. They are often done in the last moment. Oh, let's just leave something.
Yes, with a lot of bouts of insanity.
Yes. We
And then
allow
it's out.
ourselves bouts of insanity when we do those. Yeah.
Okay. Kristen?
Is there any plan or any, thoughts about expanding the enlightened archetypes at any point?
Yes. Yes, there is plans. And of course, it has to do with the magic book.
Right.
And it has a magic books, maybe. And it has to do with, I mean, we are playtesting new enlightened archetypes, and we are playtesting sort of enlightened campaigns, and how they differ from being aware. Aware is very much about the scenarios built around your dark secret, and sort of facing it or exploring it. But that's not really the way an enlightened campaign works. It not works in a similar way. So it's more of, I would say, it becomes more of an intrigue game. You're playing with the higher powers. You have, you are suddenly sort of one of the big boys or something like that in the world of intrigues with lictors and dream princes and stuff like that. That sort of affects it in a different way. I mean, for the core rules, we sort of pushed out the enlightened archetypes. Like, yes, we're going to have enlightened archetypes. So they were quickly crafted, but then we sort of felt like, yeah, but how do we really use them? I mean, you can use them, but we don't really have this sort of support work to create campaigns with them, unless you create sort of normal horror stories. But I mean, for example, in the Borderlands books, you will find a lot of information about, the children of the night, for example, and of course we want it to be. You should be able in the future to play as the children of the night, or have a campaign with like that kind of characters in the book. So in the future, I would say.
With the advantages and disadvantages we have in the Borderlands book, I think it's quite possible to work out a character that is close to a child of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
find that
Cool.
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
well, and you have the descriptions of how they organize and what they do, and some example families. That's how they gather. and how they work, their psychology and all that. So it's quite possible to get that going if you really want to. You're just not using enlightened archetypes,
Mhm.
but it's there.
I think the difficult part is that where characters have this really, really useful tool for character motivation, which is the dark secrets. And when you go to enlightened characters, if you don't have the same mechanism, it becomes much harder to create the character motivation. So that's, I think, what is there is some sort of mechanism needed for making character motivations.
Right.
And I don't think we've figured it out yet.
No, we're still testing it and well, building magic and building things. But it's about. I mean, again, it's like we are doing it and like, oh, this is how it is, and then we realize no. Then we try it again. No, so
Right.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that we can be anticipating in this vast Kickstarter that is soon to be released or coming out?
well, we hope to have it in towards the end of January, so early 2025, and it has a lot to do with the Metropolis book that we really want to sort of iron out and sort of get things that are not really clicking together to click together. So and also so it doesn't become too long between the Kickstarter and the delivery. So we will be working these dark months, over Christmas, trying to figure this out. Um, um, but there will be some surprises during the Kickstarter as well. So, but since it's surprising,
Yeah, that's
should be,
understandable.
Yeah.
but
Keep your
and
secrets.
there might be things that will let you test what we have
Ooh.
with enlightened campaign stuff and magic and things like that as well.
Fantastic.
But I'm not saying anymore.
Okay.
We tried our best, dear listeners. Well, if there's nothing more, maybe you can all just give us your highlight of the Kickstarter and why people should look out for it, and maybe what is your favorite part that is coming out that you are allowed to reveal. Or maybe you're faster than Peter can say no.
No, I think go ahead.
Jax, do you want to start?
As I'm doing my little happy wiggle here. So my favorite NPC that I wrote for Borderlands is an angel named Airburst. And Airburst lives in a decommissioned nuclear bunker and has a lot of useful information that you can read as long as you're in the bunker. And if you try to take it out of the bunker, Airburst gets really mad. But Airburst is very helpful within the confines of their bunker. Airburst is also very lonely. And of course, we've talked about Shay face licking in Metropolis, which is very exciting. Also, we didn't ask Gabe if people lick your face in Brazil.
No,
No? Okay.
unfortunately not.
I am also rewriting a chunk of the stuff I wrote for Metropolis because my first I wrote a couple of different locations, and one of my locations was a little too close to the City of the Dead, so I'm rewriting that one. But it has a Nephirite who is actually a character I designed for my TikTok, who will show up in that, and I'm very excited for her, although I may have to change her affiliation because for some reason, all of the Nephirites that we write, I've checked, it's something like 2/3 of the Nephirites we write serves Cethariel, and she needs to serve someone else, unfortunately, but we'll figure it out. But yes, I am really excited. I'm really excited to see what Gabe does with Borderlands. And to see what we do after that.
Fantastic.
I
Gabe.
really wanna see what people do with the new moves, because I have been playtesting them for a while, and everyone thinks they're great. But then you get them out there, and people have their own ideas. So I'm excited to get them out too. to fans to play test as well
Mhm.
and see what they come up with.
Great.
We have a lot of stuff like distorting flash and dark impulses and forgetting about your life and becoming the servant of a creature and moves about psychometry that you touch objects and get inside, or you read the signs of the city and let madness guide you. We have some stuff for the broken archetype that people love,
Mm.
that they get to spawn terrors of their own. They get to glimpse through the veil as part of the observe a situation and read a person. So a lot of stuff that is very fun, and I think people will like it very much.
Fantastic.
Great.
Torsten, what about you?
Yeah, I'm really excited about what people will think about all the locations in Metropolis. The the Machine City, the City of the Dead, all the citadels, the Scary Tree, it's going to be a lot. There's going to be lots and lots of locations for people to explore in Metropolis. So I'm really looking forward to that, and also a framework that lets you get divine insights while exploring Metropolis. So that's also really exciting.
That sounds very fantastic. And
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I both love and hate all the books at the same time right now. As I say to Gabe, it's only when you hate the text enough, then it starts to become good. When you're at like the 18 rewrite, you're like, oh no, I hate it.
Yeah.
But I think that I mean the Borderlands book, I know it will be good. I know it's already like I can see that it will be like the book to have when you are playing Cult because you can use it in all your Cult stories. But I am most scared and most excited in a way is that if you can we get Metropolis as good as we want it to be, because it's such a core part of Cult, so it also almost feels like sacred to sort of try to do something with it.
I see.
great.
Okay.
I guess with that, we've come to a conclusion that all your listeners and watchers and rewatchers, you're hopefully equally excited as we are about this upcoming Kickstarter set. And
Very excited.
yeah, I can just say that will be a long winter until we have to wait for Back Now. But I think it's going to be worth it. And yeah, thank you again for sharing some insights and what we are soon gonna hopefully have in our hands and can explore and expand the beautiful world of Cult. So thank you very much. Unless, Crystal, do we have anything else to add?
I don't think so. Just have a great time at the Jax.
So something that we tease each other about in the Helmgaster chats is what domain or realm we belong to. So before we go, I would like people to, say which domain or realm or path of magic they belong to. I think that would be fun.
But you should start.
Everybody in this chat has determined that I am the passion mage of the group. So
Yes.
I'm Jax. I'm one of the only femme Helmgasters, and I'm the passion mage. So surprise.
That's how we do it in Scandinavia.
Scandinavia.
Fantastic.
Fucking things what we do in the shadows, just
Yeah.
anyway, Gabe.
Probably a dream magician.
You're a madness magician. We established that you were a madness magician.
Yeah,
can
okay.
see
I
how
can like
dominant Jax is. When we say in the chat, we talk about these things. It's just Jax that says
You
like,
said
"You are the."
I couldn't be the madness magician because Gabe was the madness magician. So
Oof.
no, you were the one who was being dominant, Mr. Death Magician over there.
We're getting all that Helmgas dirty laundry here too.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Well, Torsten, you are the last one, I
Torsten.
guess.
I mean, it's time and space is the only thing left. But it's also kind of fun because it's everyone's least favorite school of magic.
Bullshit.
But I actually
I
think
love time and
it's.
space. It's so good.
Oh,
Time
do
and space
you?
is fun.
I like it as well. I
It can be
think,
hard to
and I think,
utilize in games. I think
Yeah.
that's probably
yes,
And short
exactly.
games for
I think
sure.
the
that's,
issue.
yeah, I think that's why people kind of think it's, but I think, I mean, you can expand on it to be more of a, of a scientific, when I run games, I tend to think of time and space magic as, science. Science is magic, basically. And the
Hmm.
what's behind it is the time and space magic. So, your computers and everything is kind of tied together with this time and space magic. So
Oh, my
I kind of
computer
like,
is
and
just
I'm a,
straight madness magic. It's fine.
Yeah.
I could be madness also. Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, we're all a little bit of madness mage if you're working on cult. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
have to be.
That's needed.
That's true.
Yeah. Sanity is lost otherwise pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
I didn't hear Petter's magic.
Well, I'm a death magician, of course. That's
Oh, yeah.
That is, I think, adequate and
Obvious.
fitting. Yeah. Um, Fantastic. With that, thank you to our four magicians here, giving us the
Mhm.
insight for our viewers and listeners. If you want to find out more, join our Discord server, check out our website, check out the Helmgas website in the future, where we hopefully can also see updates, and we will post updates as they come in as well. So thank you very much, everyone,
Indeed.
from Illusion HorrorCon 2024, the third in a row, and enjoy the weekend. I guess that is what I have to say. And have fun, enjoy your games. And I'm actually going to play Cult now, so I'm going to run a game. So very excited. So thank you, my guests, and I would say goodbye and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.